Hello everyone, and welcome to the Polymer Display Optical Bonding Masterclass. I am really excited to have you here. Today's topic is one that troubles a lot of engineers and manufacturers: bubble rebound in automotive display. You know the problem. You illuminate a large screen, everything looks perfect, and then weeks or months later, bubbles comes back, or we see the delamination, mora, or the yellowing. As the screen gets bigger and the bezel get narrower, this issue become more painful. And when the car are driving in extreme heat, humidity, or under a strong UV light, the problem gets more worse. So the big question is how we do eliminate bubbles rebound at the source. So not just fix it temporarily, but root it out from the molecular level. That's exactly what we will cover today. Let's get started. First, let's look at where the material comes from, because the original story actually tells us a lot about performance and supply stability. On the top, we have silicone that starts quiescent, simple, abundant. After purification, it becomes inorganic silicone, which is then chemically converted into silicone monomers, then silicone oils and resin. Finally, we formulate those into silicone OCR and OCA for display bonding. On the bottom, we have acrylic. It starts as petroleum, crude oil refined into olefin, then into acrylic monomers and resin. And finally, we get acrylic OCR and the OCA. Why does this matter? Because since February, global oil supply has been unstable due to geopolitical issues that directly affect acrylic raw material cost and availability. Meanwhile, silicone sources are much more diversified. And China is the largest producer of inorganic silicone. At Polymer, we control the entire upstream chain, so our silicone supply is stable and reliable. So that's the first practical advantage in stability. Later we will talk more about the performance. That's the more issue today. Let's get into the really deep, down to the molecular itself. Here's the silicone molecular. Its main chain is made of silicon oxygen bonds, silicon, oxygen and silicon. The side chain are mostly methyl and phenyl group. Now look at the acrylic. Its main chain is carbon-carbon bond. Side chain are ester group, carboxyl group, amide group. This might look like a small difference, but it changes everything about the material behaves in real life. Let me show you why. Let's talk about the polarity. This is a big one. Even though the silicone main chain has very polar silicon oxygen bond, the side chain are mostly non-polar methyl group. These methyl groups wrap around in the main chain like a shield. We call it the helical shielding effect. The result? The whole silicone molecular behave as a non-polar. Acrylic is different. Its main chain is carbon-carbon bond are non-polar, but the side chain are packed with polar ester and carboxyl group, and they sit onto the outside of the molecular. So the entire acrylic molecular is strongly polar. So now, what does polarity mean for you? Silicone is hydrophobic. Water just rolls off. It has a low electric constant, is chemically and biologically inert, so no allergic reaction. And here is the key: it adheres moderately non-polar surface but weakly to polar surface. Acrylic is hydrophilic. It absorbs moisture. Over time, it can be lead a delamination. It adheres strongly to polar surface but weakly to non-polar one. So if your display stack has polar or moisture sensitive layer, acrylic can be the risk. Silicone is much more forgiving. Now let's look at the atomic size. This is fascinating. A silicon atom has a radius is 111 picometer. A carbon atom is only 77 picometer. That's a huge difference. Because the silicon is bigger, the bonds are longer and the side chain are non-polar. The overall in molecular spacing is silicon much larger. Look at the silicon's number, 6.5 to 7.0 angstroms apart. Acrylic is only 4.8 to 5.2 angstroms. That is about a 30% larger gap for silicon. So what does that mean for your production line? Larger gap means molecular chain are loosely packed. That gives silicone more softer, more elastic feel, lower cohesive strength, but much better flexibility. It also means high air permeability and easy bubbles release. Acrylic, with its tight packing, is more rigid, higher cohesive strength, better creep resistance, but also higher modulus, which can cause more yellow spot during the lamination. Let me explain why larger spacing is such a big deal for bubble elimination. During lamination or high pressure debonding, you can never avoid tiny trap air pocket completely. With acrylic, those air pockets have nowhere to go. The molecules are packed too tightly, so after pressure is released, the air stays trapped and bubbles come back over time. With silicone, because the molecular spacing is larger, trap air can disperse throughout the adhesive layer. And because silicone has higher permeability, the air can actually diffuse out through the material. When you release pressure, the system quickly reaches equilibrium, no bubbles left behind. This also makes silicone compatible with a wide range of polarizer. Polarizer failure is a major industry pain point. Silicone's breathability reduces that risk significantly. So, large spacing means easy processing, fewer rework, lower cost. Next, let's talk about the bond length. Because silicone atoms are larger, silicone oxygen bond length is 1.64 angstroms. The carbon-carbon bond is acrylic shorter, only 1.54 angstrom. That might seem tiny, but it has a big effect. Longer bonds means the molecular chain can bend and stretch more easily. There is very low rotational streak hindrance, so even at temperature as low as -60 degree to -70 degree, silicone remains soft and elastic. It doesn't become brittle, it doesn't lose adhesion. Acrylic, with its shorter, more rigid bond, starts to harden around -40 degrees Celsius. It can crack around stress or vibration, leading to delamination. For automotive display, which face freezing winter, hot summer and constant vibration, silicone's flexibility is a lifesaver. Now look at the bond angle. In silicone, the silicone-oxygen bond angle is 145 degrees, very wide. That's because the oxygen atom has lone pair electron and silicone has backend 3D orbital that allow back donation, reducing repulsion. The result is very stretchable, extendable molecular chain. High elongation, high resilience, low modulus, soft elasticity. In acrylic, the carbon-carbon bond angle is 109.5 degree, a standard tetrahedral angle. The chain is much more compact and rigid. Low elongation, hard and brittle characteristics, high modulus. So when you have large curved display or a screen that upgrades thermal expansion and construction, silicone can move with it. Acrylic resists movement, which can create stress point, eventually bubbles or delamination. Finally, let's talk about the bond energy. Think of it like a tug of war between two people. If both are strong, it's hard to pull them apart. That's high bond energy. If both are weak, they separate very easily, low bond energy. The silicone-oxygen bond in silicone has a bond energy about 452. The carbon-carbon bond is acrylic 348. The extra 100 makes silicone incredibly stable at high temperature. It can handle 150 to 200 degrees Celsius long term without decomposing or losing strength. It also resists UV radiation and come for over a decade. No yellowing, no cracking. Acrylic starts to soften and creep around 80 degrees Celsius. At 120 degrees Celsius, thermal oxidation begins and mechanical strength drop rapidly. Under outdoor UV, acrylic chain break down, causing yellowing, mora, eventually adhesive failure. For global automakers who sell vehicles into hot desert, tropical humid region or high altitude sunny areas, silicone's durability is unmatched. Let's quickly summarize everything we have covered. Main chain polarity, silicone oxygen bond have very high polarity, giving it excellent heat and UV resistance. Side chain polarity, silicone side chain are non-polar. So the material has a low electric constant and is hydrophobic. Acrylic chain are polar, giving it a strong adhesion on polar surface. That's acrylic's some advantage. Side chain polarity plus atomic radius, silicone has a large intermolecular spacing, high air permeability, easy bubble release, works with many polarizer, shorter process cycle. Atomic radius plus bond length plus bond angle. Silicone has extremely low rational resistance, excellent stress relaxation, high elongation, high reliance, good buffering. Acrylic has high cohesive strength, good creep resistance. Acrylic has high cohesive strength, good creep resistance and high strength, but higher modulus. So if you want a material that prevents bubble rebound, handles extreme environment and gives you reliable long-term performance, silicone is the clear choice. At Polomo, we are already cooperating with global leading brand. We can see in the screen, including the Chinese domestic and the international brands such as Li Auto, and I would like to share the information about you. Li Auto, they are using our material for their cars, which they approach 10 million vehicles in this year. Also, many of our partners, they are using our material for the large screens such as 15.7 inch, 23.6 plus 23.6 dual screen and so many. Also, we have Chang'an car who has 35.4 inch display. Thank you all for being here today. See you again.